There you go. I had to catch you, man, because you've been ducking and dodging me.
Nah, man.
I like that new shirt, Solbox.
Oh, thank you. It's all sweaty.
The thing about that shirt, where they can get that shirt? They can get it here?
Yeah,
you sold out?
The men's shirts almost sold out. I got some women's shirts left. I got to get some new ones.
You remember NBA Jams? Or Space Jams with Bugs Bunny and Michael Jordan?
Yeah.
When he sipped on the water, but when you wear that shirt, you automatically grow muscles, bro. So
I don't have big ones.
You start.
I'm just trying to keep the little ones I have, you know. From
when I Solbox also, instead of pimping my ride, he pimped my shoes. Check it out. That's it.
I'm trying to make sure that my little muscles at 47 stay somewhat intact.
That's it, man. You DJing, you running a business.
Man's got to do something.
You got Benzes, bikes, Harleys.
Oh man, come on, man.
Yeah. Drum sets.
Come on, man.
You got a mirror on the wall with lightning coming from your shorts. What the hell is that? Nah, so what? Did you catch the fight?
I was actually in the club getting ready for my DJ set, but I did see some of it live on Facebook, and it was predictable.
You think Canelo's ready for Triple G?
I think this whole thing has been orchestrated, and like good fight managers do, they get the public riled up, and they build up their fighters for when, you know, it's going to be most lucrative. You know, there's a lot of like, I'm a student and a coach and a fan, but I'm also old enough and wise enough to know that common knowledge is not always real knowledge. It's like urban myth, right? So when people always talk about the best used to always fight the best back in the days, that's not always true. I think that back in the days there was a different level of boxer. But for the most part, unless you are a tried and true boxing head, you know, if you name everybody that Sugar Ray Leonard fought before he became champ, like, you know what I mean? And they use him as a prime example. And I'm gonna go off on a tangent. Triple G does not. Goodbye, Obi. Have a good one. He did not have to fight his way to the top the way a Marvin Hagler did in the late 70s, early 80s. Not by far. No one can argue with me that he did. Maybe in the amateurs in his country, but as far as, you know, once he came here and started to get HBO behind him, once you get HBO behind you, it's like being a rapper on Def Jam back in the 80s and 90s, man. You know, you're with a powerhouse promotional company. If they like you, they're gonna push you. They're gonna push you because they want to sell them tickets they can. They've got the stage to do so. So you take it back to 1981, 76, from 76 to 81. Sugar Ray Leonard was the golden boy of boxing after the 76 Olympics, and he was primed to become who he became. From promotional companies to investors to all of that, just do the math. In 1981, he fights Thomas Hearns. But the guy from the late 70s who's grinding and nobody knows about him, he's grinding, there's nothing pretty about his game, no one gives a fuck about him. He's not pretty, he's not articulate, but he is the definition of a boxer. That's Marvin Hagler, of a fighter. Dude eats nails and wood and cement. Shit's boxing gloves. I mean, you couldn't find a stronger, tougher, more dangerous fighter than a Marvin Hagler. He was almost like a guy named Charlie Burley from the 40s who was just so good, people were afraid of him. And unknown to a certain degree because he didn't have the star power that Sugar Ray Robinson had. This game is always about popularity and who can fill up more stadiums and more seats. Skills do matter, but boxers are like artists in the sense that people want to watch you. You have to have something they want. And a good manager, a good promotion team is going to nurture their artist/boxer to that point where everybody just has to get them. So back to this whole Triple G Canelo thing, I'm going to use the analogy between, let me tell you, as much as people love Sugar Ray Leonard, I don't think anybody hated another fighter more than Marvin Hagler hated Ray Leonard. Because Ray Leonard made Marvin Hagler wait 6 years. From 1981 to 1987. Made him wait. Baited him. Announced he was going to have a fight conference and shit, and then in 82 he says, I'm retiring. And I mean, Marvin Hagler hated this guy. And Ray Leonard always remained in the public eye as, you know, you loved him. To this day. Okay. there's a lot of people Ray fought who were great fighters. There's a lot of people who he fought who you don't know of. People don't know that Ray Leonard fought Floyd Mayweather Sr. You know, Ray Leonard fought Mickey Ward's brother. He fought a lot of people on the way up that you never heard of. So did Roberto Duran, so did Marvin Hagler. They fought guys. Maybe they were tougher then, but you don't get a record of 30-0 or 20-0 fighting the top of the food chain because there's not that many people at the top of the food chain. There's not that much space at the top of the mountain. I think that as a promoter like Golden Boy and De La Hoya has been through it. So if anybody knows how to build a fighter, that's like Dr. Dre building rappers. He knows the game, and that's why he could make multi-platinum artists because he came from the bottom and worked his way up. So love De La Hoya or not, that man knows what he's doing with Canelo to set up the biggest cash cow period. Now this fight here was solely sold on the emotional investment of the Mexican boxing community. It had nothing to do with equal skills. This Canelo Chavez fight had nothing to do. Chavez didn't have a chance because he's never fought the level of people that Canelo has fought. People were mad or calling Canelo a this or that because he hadn't fought Triple G yet. They call him a cherry picker. Well, what the fuck is that? Okay, everybody, you know, you pick easy fights. Austin Trout wasn't easy. Lara wasn't easy. Mayweather wasn't easy. Yeah, he did have some easier fights, but so did Ali. So did Tyson. Tyson in the beginning fought people you never fucking heard of.
Right.
You didn't even know about Tyson unless you were from New York or a real boxing head. You know, the first 20 fights that a local fighter has, you don't know who the hell he's knocking the fuck out. You got guys going to different countries building up their record. Canelo's been fighting pro since he's 15. He's been with the same camp since he's 15. He hasn't jumped trainers. And he's gotten better from the fights with guys like Lara, from the guys like Mayweather. He learned because he's absorbing shit. So I think that people like GGG more because he's like the guy that steps up to home plate and hits grand slams all the time.
Well, who do you think is an advantage and who's coming in as a disadvantage? Because people like talk shit about Canelo, about the whole thing, but Canelo's the one coming up in weight.
I think that most fight fans are not objective. No matter how much a guy or a woman knows about boxing, there's always, I had this discussion the other day, it's always tinged on someone's emotions, how they feel about a fighter. And especially now with all these internet threads, it's hard to be purely biased. I mean, purely unbiased. Everybody's biased a little bit, you know. Canelo, in this generation, had to fight his way up to where he's at, the way a Cesar Chavez did in his generation. It's not Canelo's fault that the level of opposition is different. He didn't choose to be born when he was born. He was born and he chose to do with his life he did with it. Cesar Chavez Jr. recognizes that in Canelo. Like, this guy, he didn't use anybody's name but his own to get to where he's at. So, I mean, like him or not, and in the same breath, Triple G's done the same thing. But I think that Triple G, because he's, there's always a fascination with European boxers or with people from countries where you don't know a lot about what they do there. And whether it's a Lomachenko or a Kovalev, you know, the Iron Curtain fell years ago, but these guys were trained by guys who were raised in the Iron Curtain. Right. So they weren't going to the mall as kids. They weren't playing. These guys were boxing since they're 8 years old. They're cut from a different breed. So the thing about these guys is that by the time they get to the pros, they're either really seasoned for a few years, or they might have already put it all out there. You don't know. I think it'll be a good fight, but the last fight that I saw with Triple G, I got a couple different theories on it. The fight with Danny Jacobs. I think Danny Jacobs is a much better boxer than people had realized. And he really boxed to the best of his ability, and maybe he either neutralized Triple G or G didn't go in for the kill, so he could look vulnerable for this fight.
But Triple G said there were some fights, especially like Danny Jacobs, he had to tone it down a little bit, like Nickel Brook, so he didn't look so...
Well, that's what I'm saying. He wanted to look vulnerable, so that this way, what it does, it's a bait, so that by the time he gets to the Canelo fight, so it's the same thing.
But do you believe in that bait tactic? Or when you're in the fight, you just gotta.
Well, you never know, man. I mean, everybody, look, man, a guy who plays poker is not going to tell you his strategy.
Right.
He'll tell the public one thing and do the next. I don't believe anything all these guys say on the media because they're already giving away a lot. They got to have their secret, top secret shit.
Who you going for in that fight? Prediction.
I'm actually going to go for Canelo because I think he's the underdog. I think that everybody gives him a really bad rap. I really hate the fact that fight fans are calling boxers pussies and faggots. I think it's disgusting. I think it's not fair. I think that, any boxer who steps into the ring and puts his health on the line, some of us have had sparring experience, some of us have had amateur experience, there's some who've had pro experience. I haven't, but for the average fan who has none of those, to critique a guy who goes through a training regimen that you can't even imagine, I just think it's not right. It's a business. And when you get to the level where Canelo's at, where G is at, if you think these guys are fighting just for the fight, then you might as well think that wrestling is real too. I mean, these guys know what they're doing, man. There's so many talented fighters out in the world of boxing, but you don't know all of them because they don't have the right team behind them to get them to that high level.
Unless they come to Solbox and
Shit, man.
in Miami,
I deal with
call
people,
out
man.
Gennady.
Nah, man, you can
He come out, you can book him, but he's unbookable.
Look, man, I'm dealing with just regular people. I never profess to be the knower of everything. I just have opinions like everybody else, but at this point in my life, I don't get emotionally invested behind these different boxers. I don't scream, I don't get into arguments, I don't bet. I let other people do that shit. Like people say, oh, who do you want to win? I really don't care.
But you let people come in your gym, spar.
Yeah,
they want to go amateur, they can go amateur.
If they want to do that, they do that. If they don't, they don't. Like, I just look, I'm trying to run a business